Hello, it's me, Daryl, Florida Catholic guy here, taking my boy out for his daily walk. I'm going to shift gears from what I usually talk about, politics and stuff, although I will start off, we did have a waterspout today, off in that direction. To the west. One report I had said Ruskin, which is like literally on the other side of the interstate, which is like right next to this neighborhood here. Another said Apollo Beach, which is in the same area. Obviously it was in the water, so it was, well, both Ruskin and Apollo Beach are both on the water, so, or a portion of the town is on the water. So, but anyway, there's a waterspout this afternoon, and interesting thing, they didn't have any tornado warnings. Usually, even with waterspouts, they obviously, it's basically a tornado on the water, so there's rotation in them. Kind of surprised I didn't get an alert for a tornado warning on that one. But I slept right through everything, so that was during my nap time. But something interesting I found out is that the west coast of Florida, which is of course where I am, and Florida Keys are the waterspout capital of pretty much the world. You get the most of them here, and most of them come right off from Ruskin. So I guess it's a thing where people go to the pier during the summer and watch them. Might have to do that. That would be cool to see that. They said it's not dangerous because if they do make it to the land, they just fizzle out, basically. So it's not like being in a tornado or anything, so it's pretty safe to watch them. So I've heard some interesting things about them. Like, for instance, somebody said, and I can't confirm whether this is true or not, but I don't see why it wouldn't be true, that when they're in the water, they suck up fish and other sea creatures, and then when they dissipate them, the fish and all the other sea creatures end up on the beach. So that would be fun. No, not funny for the fish, but interesting to see. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about today is, as you see, I have a speaker mic. No, I'm not a cop. Nor do I play one on TV. However, I am an amateur radio operator. And I have been since the early 90s. That's when I got my start. That was back in Massachusetts, North Adams. Of course, when I started off, it was when they started with the no-code technicians, where you didn't have to do the Morse code element to get on the radio. And of course, I think it was back in 2007, they eliminated the entire Morse code, requirement for all license levels. Of course, people still use code, they still learn it, but you don't need it to pass the license exam. And that's pretty cool. So when I was in Massachusetts, I was very, very active. Some guys down there, one of the names that pretty much got me into the hobby is, his name was Don Horton, call letter N1ISB. He's since passed away a long time ago, but I started working, getting on the radio. We had our club, which I think is still in existence, Northern Berkshire Amateur Radio Club, and so I was pretty active in that. We did a lot of Shadow. Let's go. Eating grass again. So I did a lot of public service events, like every time there was public events and stuff that needed communications, we would help out with that. So that got to be pretty fun. Shadow, you couldn't wait to get in there? Silly dog. Just peed on the cement. Whoops, lift up. So, yeah, I did a lot of operating in public events and stuff like that. And then I got into being a Skywarn weather spotter. And I think I told some stories. I know I told some stories in earlier videos about operating during a tornado outbreak we had in Massachusetts when I was there. It was interesting day. We had I think it was 2 or 3 fatalities. I know I talked about it earlier. The guy I was talking about, Don Horton, he was the I want to say the king of doing Skywarn weather nets. And yeah, I got my Skywarn training, and I did some weather nets. And I used to have a mobile radio in my car. Now I just got a scanner in my car, which doesn't do anything for amateur radio, ham bands, because obviously with a scanner you can't transmit. So I'm looking to get back into it, because then I moved to Maine. I did a little bit, but pretty much, I fell by the wayside, and I always kept my license up, but didn't do much operating on the radio or anything. Didn't do any public service events or anything like that. So I got rid of a couple of radios I had. One of them was no big deal because it was a Radio Shack handheld, and I kept the the Icom I have now, because it's a multi-band. Got 2 meters, 6 meters, and I think it's called 70 centimeters or something like that. So haven't done much operating at all. Most of the time my operating is under the 2 meters. But I might have played, when I was in Massachusetts, I did a contest with a guy I mentioned, Don Horton. A contest is where you go out it's if not exclusively, mostly on simplex, which is for those that don't know, it's without using a repeater. Most of the radio operating I do is on a repeater. Although I've been trying a little simplex. A repeater is usually regional. If you get a real good repeater on a mountain or something, like we had a good one. We had a good one in Massachusetts because it was on Mount Greylock, which is the tallest mountain in the state. And so we could get sometimes stations close to Boston, which I was right on the New York-Vermont border. So to get a station out of the Boston area, that was pretty distant. Talking well over 100 miles. Around here, I just barely hit the repeater. That's in Tampa. And I'm only like, I want to say, probably 25 miles away. The interesting thing about the repeater on Mount Greylock is you could be 50 miles away and have a straight shot and be crystal clear into the repeater. Or at times where I was right underneath the repeater, and sometimes I couldn't get into the repeater, or just barely made it. And of course that's because, you know, the repeater's basically a big antenna and it's going out, and if you're under it, you're not picking up the radio waves. So that got tricky sometimes. But most of the time I had no problem making it. And like I said, once I got to Maine, I just, lost interest in Massachusetts. I was also into stuff like Packet, which is basically opening a internet portal through the radio, the ham radio. So that was fun. Now they got stuff I don't even know about, like digital and satellite stuff, and they got all kinds of stuff now that I got to learn about because I've been away from it so long. And obviously you're talking 20, 25 years ago that I was involved in it, and things have just changed so much. In fact, I'm studying for my general license, and without knowing anything about the general license quiz, I only got like a 40 or 50% score on a practice test, which I suppose ain't bad for not knowing anything. But then I took the technician's test, and that's the license level I'm at, and I couldn't get above 40 or 50% on that either. So I mean, there's so much stuff on the test now that wasn't back then, plus the stuff that was on, through being away from it all this time, you know, I forgot a lot of stuff. But they used to have a novice license, used to have, or they do have a technician, and when I took it, it was a no code technician, because they had Technician Plus, which obviously was Technician Plus the code. Novice was, you had to do 5 words a minute to get a novice. So, and then they had the general, then they had, what was it? I think it was advanced and amateur extra. And back when they eliminated all the code requirements, they also condensed the licenses. So now there's only you only got technician, general, and amateur extra now. So I'm trying to get my general license so I can, do some more operating on DX, which is distance. That's where you can make worldwide contacts. And studying YouTube videos. They got classes online on YouTube like anything else. I'm also I'm ordered the book from the ARRL, which is the Amateur Radio Relay League. So I'm going to get the book so I can study. Then I'm going to, keep watching the videos, and I joined the ham radio club down here in Tampa, which right now are basically on hiatus because of the virus. They just have basically meetings over the radio, and but it's going to be a process, because I got to learn all the stuff that I haven't been keeping up with, plus the new stuff. I guess it would be all new stuff since I haven't been keeping up with it. Plus I got to refresh on the old stuff. And so I got my work cut out for me, and I'm sure I can do it. There's a lot of in-depth technical stuff, like with circuits and transistors and of course antennas and antenna tuning, and all stuff that obviously you need to know for operating stations and stuff. So but I think it would be good to get my upgrade to general license. I did order a mobile 2-meter rig with it's Kenwood. I liked it because, well, it had good reviews, and it's also made in the USA, so that's you know, most of these others like Yaesu and even my ICOM here. I don't know, ICOM might be US, but Yaesu is either Japanese or Chinese, something like that. And then they got new, I think it's called Bofang or something like that. Those are really cheap radios, which is good if you're new getting into the hobby, because let's face it, I read the article, most ham radio operators are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and they're having a hard time getting younger kids interested in it. And you know, that's why they've come up with a lot of this new technology with, you know, you got phone over the amateur radio, you got internet. Well, I mean, you always had internet portals, but it's more in depth now, and just I think the biggest accomplishment in amateur radio that I'm most proud of is I made contact with the back when they had the Mir space station with one of the American astronauts. I got a card from him hanging up on my wall. Maybe I'll show it sometime. But that was one of the coolest things, I thought. Yeah, I could talk to the astronaut in outer space. So I was going to say I never made any worldwide contacts, but I did one better. I made one out of this world. Anyway, that's about all I got for now. I'm almost home, so I'm going to end this. And thanks for watching. Good night, God bless, and see you in the next one. Bye.